Welcome to the U-Turn podcast. My friend, this is Ashley Stahl. I'm your host, and you are in the right place if you're ready to create a business, a career, a personal brand, or just a life that you're so proud of. And every single week, we want to support you by bringing you PhDs, subject matter experts, psychology practitioners, business leaders, all here on the show to elevate your success in business and also in life so that you can leave a legacy, you can amplify your authority, and you can really skyrocket the amount of opportunities you're creating for yourself in your career, whether you're corporate or you're a business owner. And if you are new here, again, my name is Ashley Stahl. I'm an international bestselling author of the book U-Turn, Get Unstuck, Discover Your Direction, Design Your Dream Career. And most importantly, I'm the CEO and founder of Wise Whisper Agency. I'm a top 100 TEDx speaker on the internet, and I was so inspired to create Wise Whisper and help clients craft their signature talk. We've helped hundreds of clients craft their talk, and we've also helped so many of them land spots on some of the biggest stages in the world, including the TED and TEDx stage. And so I am here on a mission to help every changemaker I know impact millions. Also, before we get into this episode, shout out to our friend Andy B. Mackin, the artist that has gifted us this sick new music for the podcast. Let's get into this week's episode. U-Turn friends, you're in for such a treat. Like, stop what you're doing, pay attention, get a notepad, because Dr. Michael Breus is on the show today. He's a clinical psychologist and both a diplomat of the American Board of Sleep Medicine and a fellow of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. He's also, this is a crazy fact, one of the only 168 psychologists in the whole world to have passed the Sleep Medical Specialty Board without going to freaking medical school. He was named the top sleep specialist in California by Reader's Digest, one of the top 10 most influential people in sleep. He was on the clinical advisory board of the Dr. Oz show and was on the show, I think, around 40 times. And he is the author of The Power of When, which is a #1 on Amazon for time management, happiness, #28 for overall, biohacking guidebook, proving that there is a perfect time to do everything based on your genetic biological chronotype. Dr. Breus also gives the reader the exact perfect time to have sex, run a mile, eat a cheeseburger, ask your boss for a raise. I mean, these all feel like very appealing things. And in his second book, it's called The Sleep Doctor's Diet Plan. We could go on for so long. He lectures all over the world for Yeah, you're like, okay, Ashley. He lectures all over the world for those of you who are interested. Orgs like YPO, Young Presidents Organization, AT&T, Tony Robbins. You know, it's so funny, Dr. Breus, is I actually am going on some stages for Tony Robbins. So I guess we have some.
Oh, amazing.
And yeah. Well, okay. I digress. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks.
And everybody
I'm
who's
excited to
listening,
be here.
I met Dr. Breus at a mutual friend's house a bajillion years ago. It feels like at least I think it was before the pandemic, honestly. That's how
Oh,
long.
wow. That is a while back.
Yeah, and the thing that you said that stuck out with me forever was that your wake up time is genetic. And
Yes.
that really opened my eyes because I felt like everybody gave me pressure to be in the 5 a.m. club, and that set me
Oh,
free, that I'm not meant for the 5 a.m. club.
me either, girl. Me
Yeah,
either.
exactly. Okay, so I mean, honestly, my cup runneth over. We could talk about so many things. I want to start with why. Like, why are you helping people with sleep? Why is this something that you're focused on?
If I'm honest with you, it wasn't the plan. Um, just wake up one day and say, "Hey, I think I'm going to be a sleep doctor." I've been a sleep doctor for 26 years, and it was actually in my so as a clinical psychologist. So let me back up. So I have a PhD in clinical psychology, and when you do that, you can do a residency very similar to an MD doctor does. And I was interested at the time in sports psychology, and I wanted to work with athletes and have them run fast and throw hard and win all these things and have the psychological edge. And there was a great residency program at, believe it or not, the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson, Mississippi. And I really wanted to get in. But Ash, I got to be honest with you, I couldn't get in. Only
Mm.
the Harvards, the Princetons, and the Yales of the world were able to make it into that program. I went to the University of Georgia. It was a top 20 program, but it ain't Harvard. However, they had an extra track on the side for sleep specialists. And I
Mm.
said to myself, how tough could that be? I'm going to sell myself as a sleep guy, get in on that track, and then I'll just transfer over into the
Smart.
other side, right? If
Love
you ain't
that.
going to let me in through the front door, I'm walking in through the side. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
So I sold myself as a sleep guy, got there day one, raised my hand. Yes, Dr. Bruce. Well, I was wondering about transferring. They said, we had a feeling that this was going to happen. So here's the deal. All of your funding is based on the sleep lab. So you have to do your time in the sleep lab for 6 months, and then you can transfer to any part of the program that you want. I was like, okay, no problem. How tough could this be? I sleep every night, right? By the third day, Ashley, I immediately fell in love with clinical sleep medicine. It's unbelievable. I help people this fast. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like when you're a traditional clinical psychologist, it can take weeks, months, even years to see any type of clinical gains. Like I change people's lives when I change their sleep and I do it
Yeah.
fast. It's super fun. I really enjoy it. And I kind of yeah, I kind of stumbled onto something. I feel like sleep is sort of the little black dress of health these days. It's like the thing that everybody's got to have in their closet. They've got to
Yeah.
be able to, get it going because sleep is so fundamental to so many aspects of things that we do. And then also, I didn't tell you this, but I just recently published a new book. It's called dun, 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 dun,
That
Sleep, Drink, Breathe. Wellness
sounds
is too
very
freaking
valuable.
complicated.
Yeah.
Um, because it is, right? It's like, what's going on with wellness these days? Do you do a green drink? Do you do a cold
It's
plunge? Do you get into the
ridiculous.
sauna? How many supplements can you stuff down your throat? Like, slow down, right? Like, relax. Like, let's get to the basics of what's going on with our health. And once we start to understand that, I think then we can add all of these fun, new, interesting wellness opportunities. But for me, I got interested in sleep by accident, and it's really been a gift.
Wow.
I've helped so many thousands and thousands of people around the world, whether it's through podcasting like we're doing today, whether it's on TV, whether it's through my books, or even seeing patients or giving lectures. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love the variety. Even in your bio, I was like fumbling through it because there's just so much a magic that you've done. And it is interesting. You're totally right. Sleep has become a trending topic, and it's a
Oh
good
yeah.
one because it's back to the basics. And I'm such a fan of the basics of the simples. I do think living in LA, I even go to Erewhon and I just think to myself, like, this
Oh
Haley
God.
Bieber smoothie is like a sugar bomb. And I go to Cafe Gratitude, which I love, but then I'm
Favorite.
like, it's just, you can really go off the rails and you're
Oh,
really
are
not
you
being
kidding?
healthy there. Yeah, like I
Absolutely.
might as well, your girl over here, we love a Snickers bar. So sometimes I look at these
Yes,
wellness
indeed.
snacks and I'm like, should I just have my Snickers bar? And people aren't thinking like that
Yes.
because we're just robotic about it. And so I love that you're back to the basics because that's where it's at. I want to just jump off with some like
Mhm.
rapid fire basics for people to
Sure.
start thinking differently about sleep because I love that your book is so simple. Sleep, what was it called? It was sleep. One more
Sleep,
time.
drink, breathe.
That's what I thought. Like the most basic freaking things that there are. So I would love to just rapid fire on like what are a few things everybody needs to understand about sleep that would radically change their sleep?
Absolutely. So this is a great question, and so I want to make this very straightforward for people. So if everybody only got one thing out of us talking together, I want you to wake up at the same time 7 days a week. Now, nobody liked hearing that. I want to be super
No,
clear.
didn't.
Everybody likes to sleep in on the weekend, sleep in on Saturday, sleep in on Sunday. Here's the problem is when you change your wake up time, it actually changes the time in which melatonin is produced in your body. So it changes your body's ability to go to sleep. So let me show you. Let's say you're waking up at 6 a.m., 6 a.m., 6 a.m. About 14 hours later, after you wake up, melatonin production starts. It's called the melatonin phase response curve, right? So if you're waking up at 6, but then let's say it's Saturday and you're sleeping in until 9, which is 3 hours difference from 6, guess what happens? Melatonin kicks off 3 hours later. So when you sleep in, you're actually now extending your bedtime, which isn't necessarily the greatest idea. So
Mm.
I try to tell people you want to have a very regularized wake up time. Now, before we hopped on, you mentioned that you really got a kick out of when we met together before that I taught you that, hey, you don't have to be a member of the 5 a.m. club. So, the other thing that I want people to know about is the idea of chronotypes.
Mm.
So you might not have heard of the term, listeners, but you've definitely heard of some of the ideas if you've ever been called an early bird or a night owl. These are chronotypes and they're genetic. So you don't get to change them. So people are always like, "Oh, I'm gonna be part of the 5 a.m. club," like Robin Sharma's book. Let me tell you something. So I talked to Robin about this, and I'm like, "Dude, I get it. You're a monk, but this is a bad idea for like 85% of the population." There's about 15% of the population that are early birds or early risers, and so 5 a.m. for them is actually easy, right? They're probably up at 4:30 anyway. But if you are a night owl like me, there's no universe that you can accomplish something like that. Let me break down the chronotypes for people so that way they kind of have an
I was gonna
understanding of
say,
what's
like,
going
I'm
on.
not an early bird or a night owl. Like, being up late sounds horrible. Being up super early, so I want to get up at like 7:45, 8 o'clock. I want to go to bed at 10, 11. Like, give me the normal. I'm a normal bird. When you think about businesses growing their sales beyond forecasts, you probably think about a product with very high demand, a very focused brand, and influence driven marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Shopify is home to the number one checkout on the planet, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout brands like Mattel and Heinz use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/U-turn, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/U-turn to upgrade your selling today. Again, that's shopify.com/U-turn.
So let me tell. All right. So let's get into it. So
Yeah.
first of all, I renamed the categories because I'm a mammal, not a bird, right? I don't want to be an early bird or a night owl. By the way, people in the middle were called hummingbirds. I have no idea why.
Mm.
So what I decided to do was to use animals. So you can only imagine after I wrote the book, The Power of When, we're sitting in the publisher's office and we hadn't quite figured out what we wanted the categories to be. And so some people said crystals, some people said colors. I was like, I want to do animals, and I want to choose animals that actually have the same circadian rhythms as what we're talking about, right?
Mm.
Turns out nobody wants to be a porcupine, right? Nobody wants to be a platypus. So I had to find inspirational animals on top of it all. So, right, exactly. That ain't going to work too well. So early birds become lions because, hey, who wouldn't want to be the king or queen of the jungle, right? So lions are the people that naturally like to get up early. But to be honest with you, they go to bed really early. These are my COOs of a company, not my CEO, but my COO because they're operations all the way. These are the people that make a list every single morning and go from step one to step two to step three. You know who is a lion in your life. If you get an email from somebody at 6 a.m., that's a lion. In the middle are bears. That's what you are.
Yeah.
Bears like to go to bed around 10:30. They like to wake up around 7, 7:30. It's kind of that middle ground. By the way, it's the best to be a bear.
Thank you. I love that approval from Dr. Bruce.
I wish I was a bear girl. I'm not. Bears make up 55% of society, and the 9 to 5 schedule is perfect for a bear.
Yeah.
Bears have a tendency to be a little bit on the extroverted side. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They're the people that invite you over for dinner, have a drink at the bar. They're kind of the glue for society. By the way, there's a big problem with being a lion is dinner and a movie is out for a lion.
Right.
They've been up since like 4:30 in the freaking morning. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm going to bed at 8.
But even the bears, they're like kicking out the nighttime people because I feel like the
Oh
party
yeah.
animals, you're like, all right, I gotta go hibernate. You guys gotta get out of here. It's 10 p.m.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I am the wolf, which
Oh
is
gosh.
the night owl, right? And so wolves, so it's interesting. Wolves tend to be the CEOs of companies, but also my wolves are my most creative people, right? So
Mm.
if you know any creatives,
Oh
they don't
yeah.
get inspiration at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 2 a.m. and they're partying out with their friends and doing all this kind of stuff. Super loyal people, really intelligent, lots of fun, but they don't show up at the party until 12 and they'll stay until 3 and help you clean up. Now, to be fair, so far, I haven't told you anything that you don't already know, right? I mean, we've known about early birds, we've known about night owls, people in the middle, actually since caveman and cavewoman times. Why? Because think about it. Who were the early birds back then? Those were the hunters. They got up before dawn. They went and found something to kill. They brought it back to the village. Who were the bears? Those are the people that tended the village, tended to the kids, kind of built stuff up. Who were the wolves? Well, those are the security guards, right? Just they're up anyway. Give them a spear. Give them something to do, right? What I did, which was different, was I discovered a fourth chronotype. I
Mm.
call them dolphins. Now, people are always like, why did you
Love
choose
that.
dolphins? Right? So number one, everybody loves dolphins, right? I mean, who hates a dolphin? But number two, they sleep. This is crazy. Unihemispherically. So only half of their brain is asleep while the other half is awake looking for predators.
What a
And
trip.
isn't that crazy? And so, what I like about this category of people is these are my people who have trouble sleeping.
Mm.
These are my insomniacs. They make up about 10% of the population. They're a lot like lions. They like to try to get up early, but they have this real need for more sleep. And they have a little bit of anxiety, maybe a lot of bit of anxiety. And that has a tendency to change how they perceive life. And so these are the people where if you give them a task, it's never done. Like it can always get better and better and better. Meanwhile, their boss thinks it's fantastic.
Hmm.
But if we can work on their anxiety and help them, then they actually lead some pretty interesting lives. And that's why I wrote the book, The Power of When, basically was for these dolphins. Now, it's people are like, well, how do I know which one I am? And how I feel like I'm one or I feel like I'm two of them combined, or I was one at one time and now I'm something different. Like you said, it's genetic. What's going on, Bruce? So
Yeah.
here's the deal is you start out as a lion. Think about it. When you're a baby, you go to bed really early and you wake up really early. Then when you get into like toddler, middle school range, you're a bear. Then when you get into high school and adolescence, you're a wolf, right? You stay up late and sleep late. Then you hit about 23, 25 years old, and that's when the gene seems to be expressed. And one of those three or four categories has goes on for about 40 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
then you start to go backwards. So I just turned 57, and like I'm starting to go backwards. Like, you go out to dinner with your parents or your grandparents, and you say, "Hey, what time's dinner?" And they're like, 4:30, 5 o'clock,
Yeah, love that.
right?
I love that. Yeah.
Well, because you might be going backwards too. So
Yeah.
what we find is that people can change their chronotypes, what we call chronolongevity, meaning it changes or the way it's expressed over time can definitely change. And the book turned out to be a lot of fun to create. There are over 220 studies, not done by me. These are done by researchers all over the world looking at different chronotypes and what can they do and not do. Now, this is an interesting concept, but how applicable is it to real life and what can we do with this? This is the ultimate cheat code for life. Let me explain. Once you know what time your body wants to wake up and go to bed, and I can teach everybody what that is, all of your hormones then kick off at a very predictable pattern. So if you're a lion and you wake up at 5, boom, your hormones go off. But if you're a wolf like me, your hormones, your melatonin keeps going. You don't want to kick off until 8 o'clock. Then your hormones are very predictable. So here's what's kind of cool is if you choose an activity where hormones are involved, which by the way, they're always involved, right? And you know when your specific hormone is going to be at its highest point, if you schedule that activity when your hormone is naturally there, you do that activity better.
Mm.
Pretty
Yeah, I
cool,
mean,
right?
it pays to be you. It pays to be you and do you. It really does.
Absolutely. So the most popular topic in the book is sex.
Yeah.
Dr. Bruce, when should we have sex? Because here's what's interesting. Not everybody's partner is the same chronotype,
Yeah, I
right?
believe it.
Right. So what happens when a lion is married to a wolf? When do they have sex? When does all this go on? So believe it or not, we did a study looking at all of this stuff. And so when we asked people what time do most people like to have sex, most people like to have sex somewhere between 10 and 11:30 at night.
Wow.
Here's what's interesting. When you look at the hormone profile of people, it's awful. So they have low estrogen, low progesterone, low testosterone, low adrenaline, low cortisol, and high melatonin at 10 o'clock at night. You need those things to be the opposite. You need high estrogen, high testosterone, high adrenaline and cortisol, and low melatonin in order to have successful sex. So you heard it here. Everybody that's listening, you now have a prescription to try sex in the morning. It turns out that you have a much better profile for that. even no matter what chronotype you are. And turns out it's a lot more fun. So when we surveyed people, when we gave them the assignment and we surveyed people, it was very, very interesting. So lions really prefer sex in the morning because
Yeah,
they're
of
so
course.
damn exhausted. Like,
Yeah.
forget it, right? They're
Yeah.
they're not interested. Bears are okay with sex in the morning time. Wolves, they just stay up later because they're already up until 3 o'clock anyway. So they might as well, especially if their partner happens to be a lion. And then we divided it by gender. And no joke, this was the real data. Women found that when they followed their chronotypical time for sex, they felt better connection and better emotion with their partner. For men, we found better erectile function. However, men would just take sex whenever it was offered. I know that sounds like a joke, but it really was the truth.
That's so
So it's kind of interesting when you start to look at it all. So we created a matrix in the book where you can put your chronotype across the top, your partners across the side, and then we give you an early evening time and an early morning time in order to test out the theory. We also have one for gay and lesbians so, because the hormone profiles are different. So it's
ah,
really kind of cool.
that is so cool and so interesting. And I do know that that's a thing, but you just put words and work behind it. Okay, so this is awesome about sleep. I feel like there's a few other quick wins before I ask you a little bit about drinking. Well, maybe that kind of plays
Absolutely.
into it.
Well, it
So
does, but
yeah,
I think there are some other things about sleep that I think I can double tap on for a second
yeah,
with you.
yeah.
Here's one of the things that I think, this is my fifth book, and I've been very fortunate to really study sleep and treat people for a long time. By the way, there's a big difference between a sleep expert and a sleep doctor. Right.
Hmm.
So, as an example, there are sleep experts out there like Andrew Huberman or Matthew Walker, people like that. So, those guys are super duper smart, but they're usually smart in one particular area. Right. So, Dr. Walker is an amazing sleep researcher in memory. Dr. Huberman knows a lot about circadian rhythms, but they have to form like this overwhelming theory to be able to then present it out there. So, they study sleep. I fix it, right? As a sleep doctor, been doing this for 26 years. I don't really care whose theory is out there. My goal is to be able to get in front of people and figure out how to fix their sleep. So, one thing people need to understand is who you're getting your information from turns out to be pretty important factor because that person's going to be biased unless they're a doctor where they're like, "Hey, we know what the protocols are. We've got all the research. Let's see what works in the field." We pressure test a lot of those people's ideas, and a lot of times they don't work out too well, but we can figure out ways to manipulate them and make those ideas really work.
Hmm.
Along those lines, one thing that's very, very true that we talk about in the book is sleep problems don't just magically go away. A lot of people they say to me like, "Of course I don't sleep well. I've got 4 kids and my
I was
business
going to
is in the
ask you
shitter."
about that. Yeah, kids
Right?
are a whole commitment with your sleep.
Oh, yes, they are. To be honest, I've never slept the same since our first child was born. Period.
Wow.
Drop the mic. Just
Wow.
you're different. Well, you
Yeah.
think about things differently, right, than you used to.
Yeah.
And there's a level of responsibility that you have that you've never had before, right? And I'll get to the last point about it because it kind of coincides with that. But I want people to understand that if you think there is a possibility that you could have some kind of a sleep disorder, apnea, narcolepsy, insomnia, get it checked. Okay. It is not going to magically go away. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that sleep affects every organ system and every disease state. Everything you do better with a good night's sleep. And
Yeah.
so if you have an undiagnosed sleep disorder, you could have all kinds of problems that you have no idea what the origin is. And
Yeah.
sleep is one of those things. Here's the other thing that's kind of cool, Ash, is that since COVID, you don't have to go to a sleep laboratory anymore. So it
Ugh,
used to
thank
be, I
God.
mean, it was terrible. 27 electrodes all
Oh
over
my
your
gosh,
head,
I did one of
weird
those.
environment,
Felt like a
right?
punishment, like I used to work in national security and it felt like a weird movie being in there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and speaking of national security, the number one torture technique, right?
There's
Sleep
no
deprivation,
sleep. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's super simple.
Yeah,
Just blast music at them and keep them up and don't let them fall asleep. They'll tell you anything, right?
yeah.
So now what we see is since COVID is all of these sleep tests can be done in your home and they're super easy to do. Sometimes it's done with a ring, sometimes it's done with a thing that goes on your wrist, but it's quite remarkable these days that you can have the whole thing done. What used to take 7, 8 weeks to get accomplished, I can do in 72 hours,
Wow.
all with telemedicine. And all of a sudden, we're helping tons and tons of people with sleep. The
Mm,
last thing I want to talk about with sleep that I think you kind of touched on when we were talking about becoming a parent and what does that mean to your sleep is I believe that most of sleep problems are fear based. Let me
mm,
explain. When you're asleep, you are at the most vulnerable you can possibly be in a 24-hour cycle, right?
mm,
So if you're not feeling safe, you're not sleeping,
mm-hmm,
right? And
mm-hmm.
so here's what ends up happening when the first child is born. It's not about your safety, it's about the kid's safety,
Oh gosh.
right? Now your head's spinning. Oh crap, what's going on with my kid? They're crying. They're not crying. Are they breathing? What's going on? Like, I mean, all of these things start to factor in. And what that does biologically is it elevates your heart rate. And
Mm,
when you cannot enter into a state of unconsciousness with the heart rate of 60 or above. So the goal is always getting people below 60, and that can be hard to do. Now, you mentioned that we're here in Los Angeles, and we just had these terrible fires that,
yeah.
ripped through Los Angeles. And let me tell you something, it affected everybody's sleep.
Oh my
No,
God, yeah. The amount of
right?
night, the middle of the night, I would wake up and look out the window to make sure there were no flames or that
Exactly.
this actually lends itself just to the topic of anxiety. I mean, anxiety is so
Yes.
toxic for so many of us. It kills our creativity. We can't
Yes.
think clearly when we're in that wrong part of our brain, but it also kills our sleep. And I feel like there could be anxious eras, right? Like, if your
Oh, yeah.
business isn't
We're
making
in
enough
one.
money. Yeah, totally we are in one. On so many levels. Like on a world level, like,
Right.
like climate change and natural disasters.
Oh, yeah.
COVID was like an ongoing crisis era, which I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people's mental health, you know how it is. It's like if we have some sort of issue, but we go into fight or flight and we need to handle something, we're busy
Exactly.
handling it. And then as soon as the thing ends, we can finally feel that tidal wave of whatever was going on with us. I think that a lot of people had that after COVID. They were keeping their shit together, trying to like be there for this or that. And then as soon as COVID was over, it's like this slew of mental health that
Absolutely.
kicked in.
Absolutely. Oh,
People
no.
didn't, it's like you don't even have time for your mental health when you're panicking and stuff like that. But I imagine for sleep, it's a nightmare, pun intended.
It is,
See what I did there?
and
Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah.
So, when we're looking at fear, right, and you look at something like the fires, believe it or not, there's actually been studies to look at people's sleep post wildfire, and sleep onset is significantly exaggerated, and basically it's like PTSD. Right? It's like people have got such a major trauma. I mean, I remember when the fires were going on, like, I mean, some people got it 45 minutes before they had to evacuate their home. Like, could you imagine if you were at work and your animals are at home, right? And you're driving like crazy to get, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that would make me crazy,
Yeah.
right? Like, I have two French bulldogs. We love them to death. They're like our kids. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd be upset if my kids were at home too. But the dogs, that's the dogs, right? And here's the thing that I think happened to a lot of people is when you walk out of your home and your mosque, your church, your synagogue is gone, right? Your school, your grocery store, the dry cleaner is gone, right? There's no community. And when there's no community, you're alone. And when you're alone, you don't feel safe,
Right.
right? And so, again, I think it comes back to this whole idea of safety and anxiety, as you correctly pointed out, how that is attributed to feelings of safety and then, of course, sleep.
Right. Right. And I know when I saw you and I really remember everything you shared, which is so rare. Like it just shows you're sharing such relevant information. You talked about hydration and losing hydration when you sleep. You talked about sun in
Yeah.
the morning. You talked about alcohol and the effects on you.
Look at you.
Um,
You remember a lot.
Yeah, you crushed it. Like I just remember being like,
Thanks.
yeah, and I've been friends with Craig. Sarah's my best friend. So I've been
Oh, I
friends with
love
him for
Sarah. The
so long.
baby's so
She's the
cute.
best.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That
it's
baby is
ridiculous.
so
That
cute.
kid, Evely, that kid is unhinged. She's so funny. But yeah, like the amount of time I've spent with them, the amount of speakers I've seen around
Oh,
them,
right.
I remembered because it was so pertinent to my life right now. And so
Yeah.
I want to, the highlight reel just for everybody listening is like you talked about how you get dehydrated in your sleep, so you should
Yeah.
hydrate first thing in the morning. People feel like they're
Got it.
tired, they need coffee. Coffee dehydrates you more. You just need water. I remember this. Look,
Exactly. This
am
is
I a good
good.
student or what?
You are. You should come give some of my lectures for me.
I
That'd be
mean,
awesome.
honestly, Dr. Bruce, two master's degrees, and I'm stunned. I'm here. I'm a student. But and then I remember you also talking about like sunlight and circadian rhythm and getting outside
Yeah.
and feeling the sun. So I want to ask you about breathing. Like
Yes.
it's so crazy. I started doing breath work recently, and
Isn't it
I
miraculous?
freaking miraculous. Like, those of
Exactly.
you who don't know what this is, just find a breathwork class in your area and just
Totally.
go. Don't even look it up. Just
Yep.
go. It's like a meditation class, but a little different. Just go.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Absolutely. So
I
when we started
yeah.
looking at breath for the book, it was really interesting. And for people out there who are like, breath work, oh God, these two California people, they're being all woo woo and all this other stuff. No, 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 no. Breathwork has been around literally since the dawn of time. Like people have been doing and understanding breathwork. If you look at the yogis, if you look at Ayurveda, you look at all these amazing, amazing traditions of thousands and thousands of years old. It has a lot to do with how you breathe. But let's break it down for people to make it really super simple. Let's say that you want to run a race, right? You want to run a 5K, right? Well, what do you have to do? In the beginning of that, you have to run slowly, and so your breath is very calm and very stable. And then when you want your muscles to do something different, what do? You take in more oxygen, you put out more carbon dioxide, you change your breath in order to do that. What happens when you're running at your fastest and trying to get your personal best? Your breathing is again very, very different than when you started or even in the middle of the race. And so people have to understand that that is actually a great analogy towards life.
Right.
Breath work can give you energy, but breath work can also calm you down. And so
Mm,
one of the things that people don't know is the most basic metric for sleep is you can't get to a state of unconsciousness until you have a heart rate of 60 or below, right? And so how do you get to a heart rate of 60 or below? Breath work. It's the easiest way
mm,
to do it. So my favorite is called 4-7-8 breathing. So
mm.
this is an interesting technique developed by Dr. Andrew Weil, believe it or not, for the Navy SEALs to help them slow their heart rate down so they could actually shoot better. Believe it or not. I'm not so into the shooting part, but I am into the breath work part. And here's what's so fascinating is I have this technique where I have people use breath work in the middle of the night because the most popular question that I get asked, I actually did a YouTube video on it. It's got over 5 million views at this point, is what do you do when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back asleep, right?
Mm,
When what my wife calls monkey mind starts kicking into gear and going crazy. This type of breath work turns out to be some of the best things that you can do for two reasons. Number
mm,
one, you can't think of shit when you're counting.
mm,
So, so you count breathing slowly in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, for a count of 8. So that part in and of itself, the counting occupies your mind. Plus, we know that doing this particular type of breathing lowers your heart rate. Let
mm,
me explain. So whoever concocted this body that we're all living in, it turns out we've got two lungs, but it turns out our lungs aren't identical. One lung has 3 lobes and the other has 2. And the way the body was built is you want to completely extend your breathing or your lung to fill it up completely so that when your heart beats, it sends the oxygen to all the places that it needs to go. Here's the problem is a lot of people are what we call shallow breathers.
mm,
And their heart has to beat twice as fast in order to get the same oxygen distribution.
mm,
But with 4-7-8 breathing, it's a slow breath in for 4 to fill the lung, a hold 7 to use the air, and then you push all that excess carbon dioxide out for 8, which now forces you to fill the lung again completely. And it's very relaxing. Now, I'll be honest with you. I couldn't do 4-7-8 when I first started. It was too hard to hold my breath till 7 and push to 8. So I modified it and I did 4-5-6 breathing. And that
mm.
worked really well. And then once I got clear with that one, then I kind of moved on to 4-7-8. But breath work turns out to be so important. In all honesty, I wish they would have taught it to me in graduate school.
Oh
Do you
my
know
gosh,
how
yeah.
many patients that I could have helped with just learning breath work? But it wasn't part of the curricula. It wasn't something that at least University of Georgia had recognized at the time. And I was kind of pissed about it once I started learning breath work
Yeah.
because you can get to such a better place. We were talking before about Tony Robbins. Right before I went on stage for Tony, I did 4-7-8 breathing, right? To lower my heart rate, calm me down. And I went out there and I had a blast. 12,000 people, the biggest crowd I ever talked to. We had so much fun, right?
Right.
Because I was calm, I was cool, I was collected because I did my breath work first.
It's so powerful. And I think that, I hope that this conversation inspires somebody. Those of you who have not experienced it, it kind of, the breathing practices you learn in a breathwork class, it kind of is psychedelic. It puts you in an altered state and
Absolutely.
it's
In a good way.
wild. Yeah, in a great way. I mean, the amount of wisdom we have inside of ourselves is truly insane. Like,
It's crazy.
don't need that many answers.
Right.
Okay, so final like topic is just like you talk about drinking. So I know we talked a lot about sleep, we talk about breathing.
Let's
Talk to me
talk
about
about
the drink
hydration.
piece. Yeah, hydration. And by the way, like I just love that we're talking about this because there's so many doctors that they don't talk about why or paint a picture. They just say you need this much water or you're made of
Yeah,
water. But I feel like there's so much more texture to this that you're sharing. So yeah, let's get into
absolutely.
hydration. What do we need to know?
So hydration is fascinating, and I want to be super duper clear. Not everybody needs the same amount of water, right? So different people need different amounts of water. So number one, it can be cultural. Like
Mhm.
if you live in Saudi, you have a different hydration quotient than if you live in Connecticut, right? Just based on the weather and what's going on there. Also, from a genetic standpoint, people can be different. Also, by the way, men and women can be different. For example, women before their menstruation period may become severely dehydrated, which also contributes to their feelings of overall sleepiness. And then afterwards might not need as much hydration. So it can get complicated, but I'm going to break it down and make it reasonably simple. I've researched this. There's like 30 different recommendations from everybody you can possibly imagine. Here's the simplest way to do it. Take your weight and multiply it by zero point 0.5 or half it, right? And that's the number of ounces you need to drink in a day. So I'm
Mm,
160 pounds. I need to drink 80 ounces a day. Okay.
mhm.
So Michael, how on earth could you do something like that? 80 ounces sounds like a lot. You'd be surprised. So first of all, as you were mentioning before, my star student, when you wake up in the morning, you need to hydrate before you caffeinate, right?
Mm.
It's critically important. Why? You actually lose almost a full liter of water just from the humidity in your breath as you're breathing all night long. So we know that our body gets hydrated and dehydrated. By the way, this is all based on the salt balance in your blood and in your body, right?
Mm.
And so when you've got a lot of salt, it retains water. When you don't have as much salt, you lose water. So also what happens is when you sweat a lot, so I'm an exerciser, I go to the gym every single day, and I have a tendency to sweat quite a bit. And so you really have to watch that hydration balance and make sure that you can get your water in. Now, I'll tell you kind of a funny story. So whenever I'm at the gym, there's always somebody who's always over at the water, filler
Yeah,
container thing,
yeah.
right? And they put their water in and then they pull it out and they and then they put it back in for some more, right? And I'm the asshole that taps them on the shoulder and I'm like,
Did
you
you
should
know? Yeah.
I say you should sip, not gulp. And they're like, I'm just trying to get as much in me as I can. I'm trying to get my water for the day. And I said, it's not going in, it's going through.
Yeah.
Let me explain. So
Dr. Bruce showing up at the gym. Tell me more.
I do. I'm the biggest pain in the ass at the gym. But people seem to ask me a lot of sleep questions. It's kind of
Mhm.
funny. So what happens is when you wake up in the morning, you're kind of like the kitchen sponge, right?
Mhm.
So you know when you walk out in the morning, the kitchen sponge, it's like hard as a rock, like you bang nails with that thing, right? It's not going anywhere. And when you pull the faucet and you open it up all the way, like you're gulping water, what happens? The water hits it and splashes off of it, and nothing really gets absorbed. But if you just have a little bit of the opening of the faucet, like sipping, a couple of drops go on, it gets into it, it inflates, and now you have a useful tool. We are the sponge, okay? Our bodies have got to have a slow process of absorbing the water. And by the way, what type of water you drink counts. I want to be
Mhm.
super duper clear about this, especially if you're here in Los Angeles where the water tables are not so great. You
Yeah.
always want to have some level of filtered water if you possibly can.
Okay, so wait, what's your favorite water filter? This is the perfect time to ask you this question.
So it's a great question. So I think there's a lot of different types of water filters out there, and I don't want people to go crazy with double osmosis and all these other things. Those are great, don't get me wrong, but I think it can be simplistic. I think you can just go out and buy a Brita filter
Uh-huh.
or one of those. As long as you're getting some sort of charcoal that filters through the water that kind of catches a lot of those particulates and pulls some of that stuff out, you're going to be in good shape. Me personally, I like mineral water. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one in the green bottle.
Yeah, the Valley Spring, is that what it's called?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Spring water is different than mineral water. So
Ooh, tell
mineral
us.
Yeah, so I found this out. So mineral water, actually, this is water that has to come from an aquifer that goes through rocks and minerals to pick up all these different little trace minerals, the salt, the magnesium, the zinc, all these important things.
Interesting.
Spring water actually just comes from a spring in the ground, may or may not have the same mineral content. So you want to be thoughtful. Now, to be clear, you don't have to only drink mineral water, but if you drink one mineral water each day, or you can actually add minerals to your water, you can add trace minerals. I actually in the book I give you a recipe on how to make your own mineral water, so
Wow.
that way it's pretty easy. So I want people to know that the type of water that you drink is important. You should try to get as much in as you can, probably before about 2 o'clock, because here's the problem. I got a lot of patients who they're like, Dr. Breus, oh shit, I didn't get enough water in me today. So here's what ends up happening. I have to at night. And then what ends up happening is you have to pee all night long, right? And
Hmm.
that's very disruptive to your sleep. So
Yeah.
generally speaking, the goal here is to get as much water as you can in earlier in the day. And then I use a little method. This is another thing that people can remember called the 3-2-1 method. So 3 hours before bed, stop alcohol. 2 hours before bed, stop food. 1 hour before bed, stop fluids. This allows the body to kind of work through all of your stuff, get it in and get it out, and then allow you to be able to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Oh man, the amount, my cup runneth over. The amount of information, it's so helpful. I hope our paths cross again, Dr. Bruce. This has been so
Have me
awesome.
back. I'll come
Yeah,
back
you're
again.
totally welcome back. Like I would love to have you back. So please book again.
You
And
bet.
um, where is the best place for everybody to go for your new book or
Yep.
for just following your journey in general?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
So, I am at thesleepdoctor.com. I have the
Cool.
same on all the social properties. So Facebook, X, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. We have over 800 videos on the YouTube channel. So if you want to swing over there, every topic you could possibly imagine, you can learn about from Sleep from me. Subscribe. It actually helps us with the algorithm and all that kind of good stuff. But that's really where people can find me. And if somebody actually wants to come and see me, I'm at yoursleepcoach.com.
I love it so much. And you will be back whether you like it or not. I'm holding on to your ankles. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the U-Turn podcast. I hope you learned so much in this episode and you're putting it into action today. We would love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs at Ashley Stahl or leave a written review if you're inspired. It would mean so much to us. Be sure to subscribe to the show because, as you know, the more subscribers we get, the better the guests we can bring you. And in the meantime, if you're looking to skyrocket your personal brand and impact millions, head on over to wisewhisperagency.com to learn more about how we can help you craft your greatest talk of your life, how we can help you get booked on some of the biggest stages in the world, even the TED or TEDx stage. We'd love to hear from you, and that's it for this week.
Trying to solve, always think you know it. I've been thinking about you up against that wall. It's too late, I fell on every fall. Holding ground on I hold the ground on hold the ground on. Late night drive, what you trying to do tonight? I swear you don't even try. Yeah, you still I can try and make you mine, but I don't think you like guys. I don't think you like guys. I don't think I should try. I guess it's time to give up.